The smell was the first insult, cold metal and cleaned air, proof that nothing living belonged here. Astra's wrists sat in curved restraints. The chair's hum was patient and predatory. Above, a halo of needles waited, linked by blue-veined cables to a lattice in the ceiling. A pane of one-way glass watched. Behind it, silhouettes shifted. Fins, coin-bright eyes, the careful economy of creatures sure of control. The door sighed. High Cognitor Valier drifted in, robed in black glass, frill haloing his skull like carved bone. 3 telepaths followed, helmets refracting the room into insect mosaics. Astra Hale, he said. 17, native of Sol 3, difficult to collect. You mistook difficulty for permission. Their thought chime brushed her skin. Valier's mandibles flexed, almost amused. Defiance is a surface reflex. We seek your substrate, what remains when language fails. Bones, Astra said, and decisions. He admired the shape of her answer. Begin, the halo descended. Needles found scalp and neck. Straps tightened with a gentleness that promised permanence. Diagnostics hissed. A borrowed heartbeat began to tick through the rig. Pressure gathered at her temples, weather mustering beyond a shoreline. Probes touched childhood like curators, dirt under nails, rain thundering on sheet metal, her father's boots on a grate, her mother's hands around a mug warming the morning. The telepaths paused, annotated, advanced, she let them walk. Depth 2, Valier said. The tide pushed harder. The needles vibrated with voiceless speech. A forest rose, thorns like hooks, root-braided soil, a sandcat's yellow mouth leaping for her throat. She saw again the rock in her hand, the wet crack, the pelt over her shoulders at 12. The first telepath touched that memory and flinched. His helmet filmed. Tendons jumped. In the glass, a fin flashed red. Hold, Veller said. The network steadied. Depth 3. They searched for a lever and found a landscape. Astra opened a door inside herself, a storm-stained field shelter smelling of iron and oil. On its shelves lay the bundle of choices she never explained. Stacked wood, sharp knife, clean rope. Discipline wasn't a sermon. It was preparation. The telepaths entered. Their steps left no tracks, but the rig's pitch betrayed their positions. Valier's reflection hovered in the glass like a dark moon. Curious, he murmured. Compartmentalization. Consistent with trained adepts. Training is how you survive on a world that doesn't care if you exist. Depth 4. Extract. They reached for her. Core Astra yielded like a reed, letting the current think it owned her. She offered the path she wanted them to take. The little shelter, the neatness, the false lever. The first telepath closed his hand around it. His scream ripped the room open, wet and helpless. He crumpled. The rig held him upright. The second flinched. The third hissed static through clenched teeth. Continue, Valier said. They touched the part of her that had watched her mother die. Expecting collapse, they found wire under tension. They tightened it. It sang. Astra did not move. Her pulse was steady. When the second anchored a hook in her hippocampus and pulled, the shape around it opened and closed like a trap. His cry was shorter. The third strained to stabilize the network, sweat beading along a ridged collar. Valier's frill lifted, then set. Subject uses reflex arcs as weapons. Increase lattice coherence. Strip language. Leave the mechanism. You don't understand the rest, Astra said. We will. The lattice dropped a measure. Machines hunted for the clean lines that make a mind legible. Astra pictured her father teaching knots until doing it right felt faster. He'd said, the knot remembers what hands forget. The third severed her auditory cortex from effective centers. Silence spread. Then the knot remembered itself and tied the cut into a loop. He choked, fingers scrabbling the rail. The silence wasn't quiet. It was the hush before a spring. In that hush, he heard footsteps. He heard a child counting. Alarms blinked behind the glass. Valier raised a hand. The sound dimmed without disappearing. He studied Astra as one reevaluates a tool. You're not resisting, he said. You're redirecting. I'm letting you trip over what you brought. And what is that? Certainty. His frill smoothed. You place faith in endurance, in choice. He signaled the team. One more pass. Depth 5. Map and invert. They synchronized and dove past the shelter toward the dark water pooled behind it, the place she avoided unless necessary. She let them see shape without name, nights of hunger, the cool eye of a scope, a hand that didn't tremble. When they tried to drink, the water rose and kept their image. In the reflection, they saw themselves small, flickering, breakable. The third folded. The second followed, legs kicking. The first hung like a puppet, mouth open, eyes turned white. Enough, Valier said. The halo lifted a fraction. Restraint stayed locked. Quiet returned like a boundary line. Astra breathed once. Sweat cooled along her hairline. Valier stepped close. Fine ridges etched his glassy skin. You are interesting, he said. That is not a compliment. You're bleeding. He touched his frill, came away with a thread of dark, regarded it with distance. Adaptation is messy. We continue when the lattice is repaired. You'll keep trying. Of course. We built this place to read the universe. You are not an exception, merely an unsolved cipher. Astra let her gaze pass over the telepaths sagging in their supports. She counted breaths, tremors, the glaze on their eyes. Pain teaches, she said. Hasn't anyone taught you that? He didn't blink. Then he turned toward the door. Ready the mind break protocol, he told the glass. Amplify to threshold. She wishes to teach. We will attend, the door sighed shut. The chair resumed its patient hum. Above, the halo brightened to the color of a storm trapped in crystal. Astra closed her eyes and counted backward, not to calm herself, but to mark the moment a hunt begins. She smiled. Hunt accepted. The second attempt began without ceremony. No greeting, no pretense. Astra woke to a sharper restraint, ankles locked, spine aligned against rigid cold metal. The rig had changed, thicker cables, new conduits branching like veins. The halo no longer hovered. It clamped. Valier stood at the control dais. His posture was still perfect, but a faint bruise darkened his frill edges, evidence of effort he refused to acknowledge. You cost us 3 telepaths, he said. A lesson in humility. We do not waste pain. You learned nothing, Astra replied. Pain isn't the lesson. It's the proof. He spoke without looking at her. Begin the mind break protocol. The rig activated with a hydraulic snap. The halo locked down, needles finding new points along her spine. Light threaded through the cables, pulsing like a synthetic heartbeat. 3 new telepaths stepped into position, larger helmets, more invasive rigs. Their bodies shook slightly, either from anticipation or dread. Depth 5, Valier instructed. No sampling. We seize and anchor. Astra felt the first touch, not a probing, a shove. The telepaths flooded her mind with alien light, vivid and sterile. The machine amplified them, thoughts roaring like a river bursting through a canyon. They came not as observers, but conquerors. Astra didn't resist, not yet. They found the shelter again, the tidy interior, rope and knife neatly placed. But she no longer guided them. She offered nothing. Fine, the first telepath hissed through static. We take. He forced the shelves open. They saw a memory she never revisited. Her mother's last day. The sickness. The fever. Astra holding her hand, learning what loss feels like when the world keeps spinning. The telepaths pressed deeper, expecting collapse. Her voice was steady. Trauma isn't weakness. It's foundation. The second telepath sharpened the memory, amplifying the labored breathing, sweat, shallow pulse. They attempted to drown her in grief. Astra exhaled once, slow, controlled. She did not push them away. She allowed them to stay exactly where they assumed they had power. The machine thrummed. Data chart spiked. She is dissociating, the first telepath muttered. Perfect. Her guard is down. But dissociation was not surrender. It was calculation. She shifted her focus to a simple physical cue, her thumb pressing against the restraint, bone against metal. A grounding point. A decision point. The telepaths didn't see it until too late. They did not merely witness her mother's death. They felt what Astra felt afterward, when she stood in the rain, numb, unable to cry. That emptiness cut sharper than grief. The first telepath's breath hitched. She isn't reacting. Why isn't she? Her internal voice slid into the space between their minds, soft and dangerous. You can't break what I already rebuilt. The second telepath tried a new angle. Fear. He rewired the scene, changing rain to fire, darkness to predators closing in. Astra opened her eyes. Cheap theatrics. She let the flames reach her. Let the imagined predators circle, then she acted. She recentered on the grounding point, the pressure of her thumb. Her heartbeat steadied. The illusion shattered like glass hitting concrete. The telepaths staggered. The rig trembled. Valier's frill lifted in surprise. She reversed the manipulation. One gasped. She didn't reverse anything, Valier said coolly. She stayed conscious. He leaned close until Astra could see the reflection of the monitors in his glassy eyes. We are not here to witness your memories. We are here to rewrite them. The halo shifted. Needles reached into deeper neural pathways, the prefrontal cortex, the core of identity. The telepaths merged their consciousnesses, voices folding into one collective force. We take your inner self. They entered the part of her she never touched, the field, the place beyond emotion, beyond thought, where discipline lived, no memory, no images, just structure, the framework that let her endure when other children broke. It was beautiful and lethal. The telepaths froze. What is this? The first whispered. It has no entry point. Valier observed the readings. She has constructed an internal architecture. Highly optimized. Architecture? Astra murmured. It's a battlefield. The telepaths tried brute force, pressing against every wall, forming wedges of pressure. Astra didn't push back. She stepped aside. They surged toward the core and realized too late the battlefield was not flat ground, but a maze of blind corners and choke points. Every path narrowed gradually, compressing their mental presence. I can't move, the second telepath gasped. She's folding the corridor, the first said. His voice shook. How is that possible? Astra's voice came softly inside their link. You entered a place built for surviving predators. You assumed you weren't prey. They tried to anchor into her amygdala, expecting panic. Instead, a memory flared, her father placing a rifle into her hands on her 13th birthday. Not a celebration. A responsibility. You don't shoot to win, he'd said. You shoot so you go home. The third telepath seized on it. There. Use that vulnerability. Attached to emotional imprint, he anchored, and met steel. Astra clenched her jaw. You're not touching that. She yanked the memory away, not hiding it, but withdrawing her consent. The telepath anchoring to it was ripped backward as if hurled by a physical force. His body slammed against the rig. His helmet cracked. He screamed, not from pain, but from the sudden absence of self. Valier slammed his palm on a control. Re-establish connection. No, no more, the first telepath begged. His voice had lost its arrogance. Humans aren't readable, they're reactive. We're triggering counterforce reflexes. If we continue, we break her. Valier finished. We break us, the second whispered. Valier turned his gaze on Astra. You will give me what's behind that. Architecture. There's nothing behind it but choice. He clicked his claws against the glass console, slow, deliberate. That is what we need. What we envy. Choice. Deathworlders are shaped by a world that tries to kill you every day. We want that instinct. We will take it. Astra closed her eyes. The grounding point returned, thumb pressing to metal. This is your last warning, she said. Stay out of that core. Valier smiled. Depth 6. The machine screamed to life. The remaining telepaths forced themselves into the central corridor, driven now not by arrogance, but by Valier's will. Astra inhaled once, slow, precise. She let the battlefield collapse. Not a shatter. Not destruction. A shift. Walls bent inward, sealing, funneling all three telepaths into a single mental choke point. The narrow space where instinct overrides reason. Terror flared. We can't breathe. We can't move. Astra opened her eyes. Her voice was calm, steady. You wanted access to my core. Welcome to it! The corridor vanished, replaced by a cliff edge overlooking a storm-racked ocean in her mind. Wind tore at them. Waves hit rock. Reality had force here, because she believed in it. They tumbled over the edge, disconnected. Their bodies convulsed in the physical world, helmets sparking, jaws clenched. One fell to the floor. Another vomited. The third tore off his helmet and crawled backward, eyes wide and unfocused. She's not a subject, he gasped. She's a... Astra finished it. A consequence. Valier's frill twitched, the closest he ever came to rage. This is unacceptable, he hissed. Prepare final integration. Astra met his gaze, unblinking. You're still not listening. He leaned in, voice a whisper of hunger and threat. Oh, I am. And in the final pass, you won't have anywhere left to hide. Astra smiled. Small, lethal. You assume I've been hiding. The alarms dimmed. The halo cooled. Round 3 would decide everything, and Astra was finished defending. She was ready to attack. The restraints released with a hiss, not out of mercy but preparation. The rig rotated her chair upright. Metallic arms reconfigured around her, plates sliding into a spine-shaped arc. Every movement of the machinery carried intent, finality. Valier stood close enough that she could see faint static dancing along his skin. Last phase, he said. We merge. No walls. No barriers. His voice sounded calmer than his pulse. She could hear the tremor in his breathing, tiny cracks of uncertainty. Astra flexed her wrists. The previous bruises were fingerprints of the Citadel's arrogance. What happens when your mind touches mine, she said. Isn't merging. It's drowning. No, Valier replied. It is evolution. He tapped a command into the console. Needles slid deeper into the base of her skull, connecting not to memory, but to consciousness. The point of no return. 3 telepaths remained. Their bodies were rigid, helmets trimmed with fresh neural coils. Their eyes flickered with a kind of terrified obedience. Valier raised his hand. Engage! The world dissolved. Their minds hit her like a tidal force. For a heartbeat, Astra felt the pressure push into every nerve, an invasive presence attempting to pull her deeper, to reduce her identity to impulses and instincts. She didn't fight. She let them in. The telepaths surged toward what they believed was her core, but Astra had given them access to something else, something deliberate, not the field. Not the architecture, memory, the rain-soaked rooftop, wind whipping her hair, the smell of rust. The moment her father put a rifle into her hands, forming her grip with gentle, unquestioned authority, you learn where to place your weight, not to strike hardest, just to strike exactly enough. The memory expanded. The rooftop stretched like a horizon. Shadows lengthened. Every droplet of rain caught the light and then began falling upward. What is this? One telepath whispered. A memory, Astra said. But it's mine. You don't control the rules here. The rooftop trembled beneath them. The telepaths tried to stabilize the environment, but the memory was not static. It shifted. Her father's voice echoed, not as nostalgia, but as instruction. Predict the threat. Then move faster than regret. Astra stepped forward. Her outline sharpened, gaining mass and form inside the shared mental construct. You think memory is weakness? She said. But memory is choice, and choice is power. Valier forced himself into the link. His consciousness hit the rooftop like gravity. Break her. The command vibrated through the telepaths. Pressure intensified. The rooftop cracked. Valier reached, not gently, not probing. He threw his mind at hers as a battering force, smashing through layers of recollection, seeking a center. He wanted the instinct that made humans endure. He found the image of Astra as a child, kneeling beside her mother, holding her hand as breath faded. Valier struck it like a hammer. The world flashed white. Astra staggered, briefly. He felt her pain and mistook it for collapse. There, Valier hissed. That is your hinge. It's not a hinge, Astra breathed. It's a scar. Scars did not open. Scars held, Valier forced deeper. The telepaths followed, convinced victory was inches away, but the deeper they went, the smaller the space became. The memory dissolved into blackness, and suddenly the telepaths were shoulder to shoulder, cramped, unable to maneuver. "What is this?" Someone gasped. Astra whispered inside the dark. "A bottleneck?" Walls slammed inward. Not walls of memory, but structure. Sharp angles, clean geometry, a narrowing tunnel that had only one direction. Forward. They were being funneled. Valier strained against it. "You can't contain all of us." You walked into containment voluntarily. The corridor snapped shut behind them. Ahead, a door of black steel. Astra stood on the threshold. Not as a memory, not as a child, as she truly was. Upright, balanced. Quiet fury channeled into precision. "You wanted access to my core? Fine." Her hand touched the door. It opened. The Citadel's telepaths expected chaos, terror, primitive instinct. Instead, they stepped into a space that didn't resemble a battlefield at all. A workshop, clean, ordered. Tools hung neatly on walls. A workbench stood at the center. The air smelled of oil and rain. "What is this?" one whispered. "My mind," Astra said. The room began to change, objects rearranging themselves into patterns that made too much sense. Every placement was purposeful, nothing wasted. Valier spun, assessing weak points. "This isn't a core," he snapped. "It's a decoy." "No, it's where I build myself." Astra moved toward the workbench. On it lay an unfinished object, something sharp, almost a weapon, almost a symbol. "You searched for instinct," she continued. "But instinct isn't enough." Valier pushed his influence into the environment. The walls flickered. The telepath shoved memories at her, snowstorms, hunger, loneliness, trying to destabilize the space. She didn't push them away. She absorbed everyone, every failure, every loss, every lesson. They became material. She shaped the object on the table, pressure built, telepathic, violent. The air shook. Valier roared, pushing his full consciousness into the workshop, trying to override it. "We break you here." Astra lifted her head. "You keep saying break, but breaking isn't the opposite of strong." "What is then?" Valier spat. She turned the object toward them. A mirror, not a reflection of her, a reflection of them. The telepaths saw themselves, terrified, brittle, desperate to control what they couldn't understand. Valier saw himself, small against the vastness of a mind that refused to be conquered. The mirror vibrated with truth. "You don't want my instinct," Astra said softly. "You want my freedom!" The mirror shattered. Light erupted. All three telepaths convulsed violently in the physical chamber. Neural wires blew apart. Sparks flew. Astra was still in the chair, but she was no longer restrained. The metal cracked under her hands. The rig failed. Alarms erupted. Valier tore off his helmet, panting, pupils blown wide. His frill was flat against his skull. Pure fear. "You—" he choked. "What did you—" Astra stood. The restraints fell like old skin. "You entered my mind to cage it," she said. "But I don't live in cages." Valier stumbled backward. "You can't leave," he whispered. "The Citadel is sealed." It was sealed. Astra corrected. She reached for the console and slid her thumb across the emergency release, using the print Valier had left when he struck it during panic. Doors burst open. Sirens wailed. Astra walked toward the exit. Valier gathered what was left of his composure. "Human, if you leave, the council will come for you. They will hunt you." Astra stopped in front of the doorway. She did not turn. "They can try." "Why?" he demanded. "Why fight a galaxy? Why not yield?" Astra looked back at him with calm, lethal certainty. "Because I choose to." She stepped through the door. The Citadel trembled behind her. The screams fading, the alarms losing volume as she walked down the corridor toward the hangar, toward escape, toward freedom, toward whatever future she decided. One thought echoed in the terrified mind she left behind. Telepaths don't read humans. Humans read them. The corridor narrowed into a metal throat that funneled toward the hangar. Every step echoed with the alarm system's pulsing whine. Red emergency lights strobed against the walls, making each surface look like exposed muscle. Astra kept moving. Her bare feet struck the cold floor. Silent, precise, controlled. Behind her, the Citadel searched for its balance. Tangled screams still leaked from the neural chamber. Technicians argued over failing systems. Power conduits surged and dimmed like a heart under stress. Every alarm wasn't a warning to stop her. Every alarm was a confession. The Citadel was losing control. Ahead, a blast door sealed the corridor. 2 armored sentries guarded it, tall, plated aliens with featureless helmets and rifles that hummed with charge. One lifted a hand. "Prisoner, halt!" Astra slowed enough to meet their gaze. "I'm not a prisoner." The second guard braced his rifle. "This corridor is locked. No exit. Unlock it, and you don't get hurt." They exchanged a glance, the kind sentinels share when deciding whether to laugh. The taller one stepped forward, weapon rising to aim at her head. Under Citadel code, lethal force is authorized. Astra moved. 3 steps, a pivot, a shift of weight. Her hand struck the first guard's wrist. His rifle snapped sideways, firing into the wall. The recoil threw him off balance, and she guided the motion, redirecting his weight into a drop that cracked his visor against the floor. The second guard fired. Astra grabbed the fallen rifle one-handed and angled it like a shield. The plasma bolt struck the guard's own comrade instead of her. She didn't smile. She didn't take pleasure. She simply moved faster than hesitation. In 3 controlled motions, both guards hit the ground. One unconscious. One, stunned and blinking, Astra knelt, pulled the emergency release key from the taller guard's suit, and held it up to the blast door console. The door unlocked with a violent clank. She stepped through. The hangar was a cathedral of engines and steel, ships suspended on magnetic cranes, crew scurrying like desperate insects. The station trembled. Lights flickered. Commanders barked orders. "No one enters the neural wing." An officer shouted, "No one leaves the hangar!" Another yelled in contradiction. Order disintegrated. Astra scanned the lineup. Fighter craft, patrol skiffs, patrol cruisers. Then, at the far end, a compact craft shaped like a spearhead, quiet and aerodynamic, dropship class. Single pilot, fast, short jump capabilities, perfect. She angled toward it. A hangar controller spotted her and fumbled for his comm. "Unauthorized movement. The Deathworld subject is loose." Several heads snapped toward her. A squad of flight deck marshals began converging. Astra kept walking, not running. Running meant prey. Walking meant decision. She reached the dropship's boarding ramp just as 4 marshals fanned out, rifles aimed. Their commander's mandibles clicked in tight formation. "Hands where I can see them." Astra didn't move. Step away from the vessel. "No." He frowned. "No? You heard me." The squad tightened formation. Their weapons pointed at her chest. Adrenaline rippled through them. She could sense it even without telepathy. Fear made their aim sloppy. "Fear makes everyone sloppy. You're surrounded," the commander snapped. "Don't force our hand." "You want to know the difference between us?" Astra asked quietly. Confusion flashed across their faces. No one expected conversation. "You think orders give you strength," she said. "But strength is acting without permission." The commander signaled the others to fire. Astra moved first. She ducked under the nearest rifle, gripping its barrel and dragging it forward. The marshal stumbled and she swept his legs. His gun discharged upward, frying the ceiling lights. She jabbed an elbow into the second marshal's sternum. Sharp, precise. He collapsed, wind gone. The third swung wildly. Astra sidestepped, caught his wrist, twisted, and drove him into the wall. The fourth hesitated a fraction too long. She didn't attack him. She simply stared. He dropped his rifle. "Smart," she said, stepping past him into the dropship. The cockpit sealed with a hydraulic hiss. Panels lit up in blue arcs. The interface demanded an authentication swipe. Astra placed Velier's stolen palm print chip against the reader. Access. Granted, fuel lines engaged. Engines whined to life. Behind the glass canopy, the hangar swarmed with frantic movement. More guards spilled in, some shouting, some pointing, some too scared to get close. Then a voice thundered through the intercom. "Lock down the bay." "She does not leave." Astra didn't need to turn to know who it was. Valir had arrived. He stood on the upper platform overlooking the hangar, robes fluttering in the heat exhaust from the ships. His frill was tight with fury, but there was something else. Fear. He glared down at her. "Do you think escape changes what you are?" Astra powered up the engines. "No. Escape confirms it. You are not special," he hissed. "You are fortunate." "There is a difference." She met his stare, unflinching. "Only to someone who's never fought for anything." The hangar bay shields flickered, the final barrier between the ship and open space. Valir slammed his claw. Into the emergency control, the launch doors began to seal. Astra throttled up. The dropship lifted off the pad. "Close the doors!" Valir roared. A technician shrieked, "They're not responding!" She compromised the dampeners. Astra angled her ship at the narrowing gap. The dropship's engines screamed into high burn. Valir lunged to the railing. "You will not leave." Astra pressed the accelerator. The dropship shot forward, barely a meter of clearance. The hull scraped sparks against the steel, then burst through the shield aperture straight into the black. Silence replaced alarm. Stars smeared across the canopy as the dropship cleared the Citadel's shadow. Astra breathed. Not relief, readiness, because escape was not an ending. Escape was a beginning. Alarms faded behind her as she activated short jump sequence. Coordinates translated into navigable space. But before initiating jump, communication channels lit up. Hundreds of signals emitted from the Citadel. Emergency dispatches, military alarms, encrypted orders. "Deathworld girl has escaped. Send fleets. Retrieve her or terminate." The galaxy was being notified. She should have felt hunted. Instead, she felt clarity. She keyed the ship's transmitter to the Citadel's primary frequency. "Valir," she said, voice steady. Static crackled. Then his voice answered, harsh, breathless. "You will be recaptured." "No," Astra replied. "You're going to spend the rest of your life wondering why you couldn't break one human." Valir snarled through the channel. "You are just a girl. And you," she said, "are just afraid." She cut the transmission. The jump drive finished charging. The stars elongated into streaks of light, space folding around her like wings. Astra whispered to herself, not as a mantra, but as a promise. No more cages. The dropship leapt into hyperspace. Back in the Citadel, Valir stared at the empty launch bay, hands trembling, jaw locked. The telepaths behind him stood silent, avoiding his gaze. He had meant to extract a weapon. Instead, he created one, a human who learned exactly what fear looks like when someone else feels it. And Astra Hale was now free in the galaxy, not just a survivor, a force, a consequence.